Hello everyone, welcome to Chill Ill Trades, where I analyze stocks so you know what's going on. Today we are going to be covering SPCE, Virgin Galactic. I mean, if you don't know about this company, you've been living under a rock. It is basically Richard Branson's company. They are trying to make domestic, basically space travel, the short way to put it. But today's video, we're going to cover both the fundamentals of the business and maybe why the stock will be coming back down to earth. Much like Richard Branson did, thankfully. And then both of the technical chart to figure out, where some support prices, can the stock continue to go higher, and where we want to look at for specific maybe buy points or maybe sell points. But if you're new here and you haven't hit the sub button, or if you ever watched a video and you haven't hit the sub button, please hit that and join the squad. But let's get into things. So the first thing I want to talk about is a news that came out today saying that Virgin Galactic is selling $500 million worth of stock. So this is a really big deal because this is going to continue to happen. I guarantee you 1,000%. I bet my life savings on it. 1,000% they're going to be doing more share offerings over the next couple years. So when we look at here, Virgin Galactic currently has 240 million shares, which are 164 are available in the public market. So big float, not terrible. And with 500 million offering, there'd be about 10 million more shares. So on a share basis, it's not a ton of dilution, but that's a lot of money to offer. And when you have to really think about spaces, for the company to get to where they want to be in, say, 10 years, by 2030, they're going to need billions of dollars of financing to get there. And so this 500 million is just the first of many, many, many dilutions of their shareholders, because every time they offer shares, the float gets bigger. And as the float gets bigger, it's going to take more and more buyers to keep the price up. And so I would say this is something you need to look out for if you're a long-term owner of this stock. There's going to be more of these, and it's really going to hurt shareholders over the next few years. In 10 years, it might be beneficial for the company because they've grown to the space to be profitable and to be successful. But for the next few years to 5-6 years, there's going to be tons of more share offerings. So this is something really important to keep an eye on. The next thing I want to look at is this article that came out on Seeking Alpha. And so it just kind of breaks down their valuation and where they would need to get the company for today's current valuation to make sense. And so when they're kind of pulling the numbers, so the CEO says he expects each spaceport to generate $1 billion for the company. Okay, that's decent. That's a lot of money. But when we actually break down the numbers, their current share price does not make sense based on how big they would have to grow. So to justify the current price, the company needs to build 110 spaceports and sell 275,000 tickets for $400,000 each. Wait a minute. Those are insane numbers that they have to come up with. And so if you think that they're going to build 110 spaceports in the next few years and sell 275,000 tickets, then you've lost your mind. And this is just another reason where you really have to consider, if you're holding the stock today and you're holding it for the long term at these price points, you really need to reconsider your current position. And if you've maybe made a bunch of money over the last month or so and this stock has skyrocketed, you really want to start considering taking some profits, if not all your money, all your profits out of this company. I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not telling you to do it, but those are just my thoughts on kind of the valuation and the growth they need to see in order to hold up how they're currently being valued. But I'm really curious what you guys think. Do you think that the stock's overvalued or not? And are you a buyer today? Next thing I want to look at, as I mentioned before, market cap 10 billion. They essentially have no income, or no revenue, no sales. So we have a company that's worth 10 billion that doesn't have any sales. That doesn't make sense to me. I would say this company has an amazing potential for future, so maybe it's worth a few billion, but 10 billion is, in my opinion, absolutely ridiculous. And the main point I want to bring up here is insider transactions. So if this company is the next best thing and they have this amazing growth and their amazing investment right now, why have 9 out of 10 institutions. I'm just going to use that as an example because I think it holds more weight. 9 out of 10 insiders sold out of their shares. That doesn't make any sense. If I'm someone who owns a bunch of shares somehow as an insider, say it's somewhere in the C-suite, and I really believe in this company, I'm holding on to those shares. I'm not giving those shares to anybody. So why have 88% of why have we seen a decrease in 88% of insiders transactions? That doesn't make any sense to me. So you need to start figuring out what the big money's doing and kind of maybe start structuring your decisions with the stock around it. I also want to look at owners. So only 26% of insiders own this, or institutions. So when I make an investment, I typically like to see at least 50% of institutions own a company. And the reason I say that is when big money owns something, they know things that we don't know. They have teams that are analyzing stocks to figure out if the investment's worth it. And so 26% is nothing that gets me excited. And as they dilute more shares and potentially more insiders sell off, this stock is going to become more and more risky over the next couple years, even though maybe in 10 years it could be a really great company to own. But you might lose a lot of money if you're owning shares today in it. But going on institutional ownership, so I mean, over the last year and a half, we've seen pretty decent buying. I would say it's a few hundred million, maybe 500 million of institutional buying, which is good. Still only 20%. But the main red flag that I'm starting to see is a lot of selling. So yeah, we've had a lot of buying, but a lot of that buying was pre the stock going up in price. But now we're having people starting to sell out. You see all this red, big red too, 63 million. You're starting to see a lot of selling, and institutions are taking profits because the stock has run so much. So over Q3, Q4, this is something you're really going to want to pay attention to, is if this red continues to increase for institutions, as that would be a really big red flag for me personally. I just want to quickly cover short float, because in the past, this is the reason why the stock has gone parabolic, is Wall Street Bets and Reddit got a hold of it and really squeezed it higher. So we're only 20% short float. That's nothing that's going to really short squeeze a stock, so I don't think it's a candidate for that right now. Maybe in the future we could see that action again, but now that I would say that's really nothing to it. A couple other things on the financial side I want to look at. The first thing is just their value compared to revenue. So at a $49 price, they are currently 1,000 times revenue. 1,000 times revenue. When I look at high growth companies that I'm willing to invest in, I usually don't want something over 100 times revenue. This is 1,000 times revenue. So this is a red flag for me. And like when we look at their revenue, like, okay, the revenue is expected to grow pretty substantially over the next couple of years, from basically zero revenue to 56 million, but they're still going to be hundreds of times their revenue based on the value of the company. And so that's a really big red flag in the more short term, I'd say over the next couple of years. And we go to revenue. This is the base case scenario. This is analysts' expectation. So this is if everything goes right for the company. In the best case scenario, they're getting 56 million by 2022. All those things really make me question. In the short term, I think these are things that you need to start thinking about as an investment, because the last thing I want you to do is to lose money in your investments if you do own this, or if you're thinking of buying it now, because I would say there's way more red flags than buy signals at the current price. So the last thing I want to get to is just the charts to see how they're looking, and I would say the pros and cons of what we're seeing. Let me bring up something real quick because it's very important. So the first thing I want to look at is MACD. So, and the reason I want to look at this because it's very important where we're at right now. So when we look at the stock, this is the 4 hour, let's go to the daily. So when we go to the daily, the MACD has hit some negative momentum. When the blue line goes below the orange line, we're signaling some negative momentum start to come into the stock. We also see it going negative here. So we're going to want to see if this persists moving forward. If we continue to see the blue line get away from the orange line, we're going to see negative momentum increase, which is going to cause more downside. Besides this consolidation period where we saw the lines kind of go back and forth with each other, the last time we saw a significant a significance of the blue line going below was this big pullback. And so what we're seeing on the stock is essentially a double top. We're seeing a lot of negativity in the price action. We're seeing a lot of negativity in MACD. So these are all the signs. We want to put together all these different indicators to kind of create a picture for the stock. And so these are things where we want to keep an eye on to see if the negative momentum and downward price action happens. Let me get rid of MACD because I want to bring up moving averages because those are also important. That's not the one I wanted. 1 second, everybody. Tell me what you guys think. Are you guys seeing something on the chart that I'm not seeing? I would love to know your perspective on the stock. Got my mic right in front of my face. So a couple things we want to look at the chart. The first thing I want to do is actually go on the 4-hour candles, and I want to look at the 20-day. So something that I always look at is a 20-day to see more, I would say, momentum for the stock, because when you look at things, when the stock, what a stock typically does in its interaction with the 20-day moving average is it will pull away, come back and hit the 20-day, and then pull away, come back and hit the 20-day, pull away, come back and hit the 20-day. And so when the price is constantly moving up above the 20-day, coming back and testing it, we're typically seeing a bullish pattern to the upside. And as we see it here on the chart, and then when we start seeing the opposite of that happen, so when the stock moves down below the 20-day, comes up and tests the 20-day, goes below the 20-day, comes up and tests it, go below, come up and test. We're seeing negative momentum. And so the first time since May, we're seeing the price below the 20-day. So this is really important because we're going to want to see if we start going like this and hitting the 20-day we're starting to come back up and test the 20-day, because that can signal more downward price action, kind of like we saw after the peak back in January time. So the 20-day is the first thing you're going to want to pay attention to, more on a day-to-day basis. Outside of that, we want to set some potential price targets. So right now on the 4-hour, we're kind of testing the 50-day, which is really important to hold. If we continue to break down, that's going to be a lot of negative momentum. That's something we broke back below. But I want to go back to the daily because I want to look more long-term time frame. We broke below both our trend lines, which is a very bearish sign. We broke below both a really steep curve and a little bit less of a steep line. And so I guarantee you there's zero probability, double zero. There's zero probability that this price gets back above these trend lines. I guarantee you, stocks can never hold more than a 45-degree trend line for more than a couple months. It never happens. 90% of the time, 99% of the time, it doesn't happen for an extended period. And so if we do see more positive momentum, we're going to want to see it come something like this and kind of create somewhat of a more realistic uptrend. But I also think I doubt that as well. So we broke below those and we hit really important support. So as you can see here is when we broke above this price around $39, which we touched today, that typically signals that we're going higher. And so we're testing that right now. And so we're going to want to see if it's able to hold 39 over the next couple of days, or if we break below. If we break below, then the range that I'm having is between 34 and 36. And the reason is we kind of go back, we have a lot of support and consolidation in this zone. This little zone right here, 36 at 34, a lot of accumulation, and accumulation means a lot of holders, and a lot of holders means that prices sometimes get stuck in that range. When we look at that price point, we also have the 50-day there on the daily, which is really important. And that's the EMA, so that's weighting more of the current price. But if we can't hold this range, then we're going to look at the next area of consolidation in past price, which is between 32 and I'm just going to go 32 and to 27. If we break below that 34, that's the next price range, is that the 31 to 27 range. And again, when you look back at past price action, you just want to see where there's a lot of consolidation. Where you see a lot of consolidation in price is where the chart is pulled to if we break down. And so those are just a couple things to look at as we move forward. My opinion, my advice, I'm not a financial advisor. Do not buy the stock right now, but it's not a financial advice. But that's all I have for you guys. I'll do an update video soon, and I make a video a day, so I'll see you again soon.